Hello and welcome to episode 15 of my RimWorld tutorial video series. We are still sticking with the future colony because I thought I would spend some time showing you some more tactics on how to deal with certain situations. And I thought since this colony is getting a siege right now, we would talk about sieges and how to defend against sieges. This siege is actually taking place because of a quest that we accepted. We accepted this quest to divert pirates to us, and they're bringing 86 mercenary snipers. So we accepted it for these awards. And we didn't know this, it didn't tell us this, but as soon as they appeared, it looks like they are going to siege us. So whenever you get raided, there's the composition of the raiders, but then there's also their tactics, what they decide to do. They might decide to prepare and then attack later. They might attack immediately. They might use sappers, which in my opinion is one of the more difficult raids to defend against. And then they could also do sieges, which can be very difficult to defend against early game. If you get sieged early game, it is something that is way more tricky. But if you've built up your colony with enough defenses, dealing with a siege is actually not that big of a deal. Now, because this siege is composed of snipers, so they all have a giant amount of range, this is also going to, change our tactics or how we deal with them. So I thought in this video I kind of go over a few different ways you can deal with sieges, because there's actually quite a few ways that you can deal with them that may not be obvious initially. But so what happens when you get sieged? Well, when a raid is coming and they're going to be sieged, they will enter from the side of the map in some area. They will then immediately head to another area, and you kind of don't know where this is until they stop moving. But they'll head to another area, and that's where they're going to make some construction to lay down like a little bit of a siege camp, and they'll get their supplies airdropped in on top of them, and then they'll build 2 mortars and usually some barricades. And that's basically what they build. They build basically just 2 mortars and some sandbags or barricades around the mortars, and then they will start mortaring you with the 2 mortars. They always build just 2 mortars, I believe, regardless of the size. So we have 86 snipers here, but they're only ever going to make 2 mortars. So the classic defense to, I think, sieging is to basically bombard them right back with your own mortars. So we have 4 mortars here. I would recommend, at least 4. Mortars are really not, you'll see in a second, they're really not accurate. And it really takes a lot of shots in order to kind of do the damage in the area that you want to do. Even though this is a big group, and you would think hitting somewhere around them will do some damage, it really will take probably several shots in order to, kind of disrupt their plans. You also want to make sure, besides mortars, that you have plenty of shells. We only have 8 shells, with just 2 shots for each, but I believe each of these mortars already has a shell loaded. So we have 3 shots of each. So hopefully within 3 shots, we can do enough damage to these guys before they've built their mortars. And then if you destroy their mortars or disrupt or do enough damage to them before they get their mortars up, they'll then just become a normal raiding party, which means they'll abandon their camp wherever they've set it up, and then they will come and attack you. And hopefully this group, if we've set up our killbox right, they'll just be coming in through this killbox. Part of this quest, we also got these faction, I believe they're called slashers or maybe thrashers. It just means they're melee units. We got slashers, mercenary slashers. So I believe slashers always have a shield belt. So whenever you get attacked by slashers, or you are going to get allies that are slashers, mercenary slashers always have shield belts. So that's something to keep in mind. So these guys, what we could do is we could kind of just run at these guys immediately. That's another way to deal with sieges, is kind of just attack them before they get their siege stuff up and running. But let's see how we do this. So I'm going to show you the kind of the traditional way, or what I think of as the traditional way of dealing with sieges. And then I'll reload it and show you some other tactics that we can employ. One of which is my favorite, but is also pretty hard to pull off, and you need to make sure you have certain abilities. Okay, so right now they've just entered. We just got the notice that they're raiding us. We do have some relationships. It looks like all of these relationships, except at the bottom, Mercenary Squirt is the brother of Alex, who is one of ours. The rest of the relationships seem to be or are visiting. We have some visiting Imperials for another quest that are just, they can't do any violence, except I think 2 of them can do violence, maybe. But in general, they can't do any violence, and they can't do any work. So they're just kind of sitting here, eating our food and sleeping. And we turned these bedrooms into a giant barracks to house all of them. Yeah, so they're not going to be any help. So we just have our dudes, and then we have looks like about 7 or 8. Can't even count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slashers that were given to us for this quest. So as soon as this pops up and it says they're going to siege, what I do is I go and I man my mortars. Now, manning mortars is very simple. It's basically a task, but you have to assign a colonist to do it. So I usually choose people that are in a good mood, because if you're manning a turret, you're going to be there for a long time. So if a person is already in a bad mood, there's a high chance they could break when handling a mortar, because they're kind of standing around, not doing anything, getting hungry and tired, and they're usually in kind of a dirty or not pretty environment. So they start to get upset fairly quickly. But I'll take, since most of my colonists right now are fairly happy, I'll just kind of take the closest ones. Orlean, sure. Bishop. Bishop is one of the slashers. Might as well use him, just because, rather use a pawn that we don't care much about. And here we'll use Aurora too. We'll use 2 of mine and 2 of our friendly slashers that have joined us. I currently have these are loaded, and I don't remember. Last time we did, I used the mortars. Anytime you man a mortar, it takes a lot of warm-ups time, and then once you've loaded it up and computed everything, I guess they're doing calculations, then it will aim and cool down and fire. Take a long time to shoot. There's another reason why you want multiple ones. But as soon as the siege comes up, we don't even know where it is yet, but as soon as it comes up, I man the mortars because of how long it takes to really get mortars up and running. So I'll have them do that. And right now, all my mortars are set to hold fire, because I do not want them firing at wherever we set the target last time. Last time we got raided or sieged, or I needed to use the mortars, I set a target for the mortars, and that target is still set until you choose a different target. So for right now, so you can see, they go up to the mortar and then they start working on it. And as soon as this bar gets filled, then the mortar is ready to shoot. And it looks like they're heading over here to do their siege. I kind of figured this seems to be a popular spot for sieges in this playthrough, for whatever reason. Okay, it looks like they've stopped moving. So this is almost definitely where their siege is going to take place. So anytime soon, drop pods are going to come. So I'm going to set my 4-star. You can do it individually or all of them, selecting the same group, and I'm going to set it to all of them. And now here's the tricky thing. When you're selecting a target for the mortar, hold on. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. My wife needed something, so I had to stop the video. What I was saying is that in the vanilla version without mods, when targeting with grenades or anything that is a kind of a projectile thrown thing that might be sedentary and being throwing a lot, or with mortars, you want to be very careful when you're choosing your spot to target, because if you notice that this target spot is actually jumping around to the people, and if you target a person, that means your target is going to move with that person. So if we targeted John right now, you'll notice as John's moving, so are the target lines. So in general, that's not usually what you want. What you usually want is to target the ground that's right in the center of where people are. Because if you target a person that might be in the center now, they might now float over to the edge, and then they're targeting that. With mortars, since the accuracy is so low in general, it wouldn't probably matter too much, but I always like to target the ground, and this can be difficult if there are a lot of people all bunched up. There is a mod called Ground Targeter, which just allows you to hold shift and then target the ground wherever you are, so it stops targeting the people. I don't know why I don't have this mod installed. It's something I've known about and have been meaning to install for a long time, because it is useful and it's something that I don't feel breaks the game or really changes a core aspect of the game. It just allows you to have a little bit more control on where you're targeting things. But in general, we're gonna choose this kind of central location, it seems, or maybe there. I don't know if that's a person. Good. Oh yeah, that seems to be the geyser. We're targeting this geothermal vent that is kind of in the middle of them. All right, so we've done that. Now, what I could do is I could bombard them now, because it looks like most people are ready, but I'm gonna wait until their supplies actually arrive. And, hopefully we don't kill Squirt, who's right here, because then Alex will be really upset. And they're pretty cool. They're a psychopath, they're a jogger, and they're psychically sensitive, and they're really good at melee. So this would be a fairly good person to have. So maybe we would want to recruit them. We don't want to kill them. And full disclosure, this is an older part in my colony. We ended up successfully beating the siege and recruiting Squirt, and Squirt's now one of our melee dudes. So yeah, it is possible to do that. But when it comes to the mortars, even though I've done this once before with this same siege, the mortars might hit differently. Squirt might be in a different location. So, it really kind of just is the luck of the draw when you're dealing with mortars. So that's the pros and cons of dealing with mortars. They're a good way to kind of do damage to this group without getting your people in harm's way, but it's also kind of a very inaccurate, unpredictable amount of destruction that you're about to rain down on your enemies. So let's just see how this plans out. Again, I'm just going to wait until they get their drop pods delivered, and then we'll have all of these stop holding the fire and see if we can destroy their stuff. So this takes a little bit of a long time. Okay, there we go. You see, as soon as the blueprints appear, and you can see these yellow things on the mini-map are the drop pods in the air, they're going to drop the supplies. Now, here's an interesting thing to note. So they'll get going. So they dropped food to keep them fed, and mortars to put in mortar shells to put in the mortars, and these can vary. Usually they're high explosive and incendiary shells, but I think they could be any type of shell. But in general, they would probably be these two because those are the two most common, cheapest, and most destructive, unless you're talking about anti-grain warheads. But, this doesn't seem to be an anti-grain warhead siege, which I've never had, but I believe is still possible. Okay, so since they got their stuff up and their supplies are out, I am now going to set the mortars to no longer hold fire. And you'll see even when they're set to fire, they still have this kind of cooldown, like you're aiming a weapon, if someone like had a sniper or something. And do I want to last minute change the target? No, I think that's a good target. It's sort of next to one of their mortar spots and not next to another. And here we go. Let's see what happens. All right, here are the mortars in the air. You can kind of see them. That's cool because it takes a long time. This is why you only use mortars on targets that are not moving. Because if you're doing a moving target, by the time the mortars fire and the target is moving, they'd already be down. So you can already see these two are way off. This one might hit some people. That's cool. We'll see. So 2 went there and did nothing. And 2 did here. Oh, we hit one of their mortar shells, so this is going to explode and cause a bunch of fire, so that's cool. And look, now they're assaulting the colony. We did enough damage in just that round to make them stop their siege. So now they're going to just be a normal raiding group. And as soon as you don't want mortars going anymore, you got to remember to either hit hold fire, or to get all your people that were on the mortars and say clear prioritized work, and they'll go back to doing whatever they need to do. They're probably all hungry because they've been standing around for a long time. And look here, we did quite a bit of damage. Oh, and Squirt died. So unfortunately now Alex has their brother died, minus 14. So not as bad as a husband or a wife dying, but a spouse dying, but still pretty bad. And you can see once these guys come and raid us, and once we deal with them, look here, we have all these great supplies. This is another cool thing that's good about sieges is, especially if you can disrupt them early on, you'll get all these really cool supplies. Mercenaries also, just in general, have fairly cool supplies. The types of raiders, if they're a mercenary group, each person has a chance to be addicted to a drug. I think it's like a 10% chance. If you're a mercenary, you have a 10% chance of being addicted. And you notice here, some of these people, we do have some outside of our base. Ooh, I just realized. Don't know if I set... Okay, everyone's set to hunker. And I want to make sure my animals are set to hunker too. Just want to make sure they're not attacking some people that we might have had out in the field. They're probably coming around to attack. They're probably coming around. This has been over here. I have a mining drill that's mining at some plasteel that's under the ground. And I have some exposed tables and benches. So a lot of times raiders like to attack those. They'll set it on fire. They'll destroy it, and then they'll come back around and go into the Killbox. Here you can see how the Killbox slows them down a lot. I've mentioned this in previous videos, but I've designed this so the reason they're going in here, and I mean, some of them are going to the outside places, but basically all the doors, I have my whole base walled out, except there is a path through this Killbox out here and through this door that I've held open. I've also held open these doors, technically. I could close this off at any time. But I've held open these doors so they feel like all of this is open grounds. And most raiders, when they attack, they want to destroy assigned colonist bedrooms. They really that's like a high priority target for them. So because I have an open path, and it's near bedrooms, they're gonna come this way. You can predict that almost with 100% predictability, unless they're sappers, of course. Sometimes it doesn't work, and then you have to figure out what's wrong with your Killbox, or what did you do wrong, or what didn't you account for in the design of it. And you'll notice I was hoping that these sandbags in between, it slows them down, but I was hoping it would spread them out more. It doesn't seem to be spreading them out. So this might require a tinkering with, because even though these guys are snipers and I have plenty of guys to help me, they're going to flood into my kill box, and they're probably going to overwhelm us and eventually get up in here. So luckily we have a lot of melee people that are going to help us out when that happens, because there's going to be too many people at some point funneling in that that even no matter how much firepower we have, it just won't be enough. So I'm just going to turn on these turrets real quick. This is another design thing that you can do with, I only do it with turrets, but I guess technically you could probably do it with all electronic devices. But if you put a turret next to a just standalone power conduit that's floating in the air, not connected to power, you can have the turret connected to this. If you hit the reconnect, it'll choose where it's connected to. If it's connected to this, it'll be off. And if it connects to the main power line, which you can see I have main power going through this wall, it will then reconnect to that. And this is a way that you can turn on and off your turrets without having your colonist come and turn it on. Why is this not? Let's reconnect. Sometimes it takes a bit for them to turn back on. Oh, I'm paused, that's why. So that's something to keep in mind. I always do this with my turrets, because turrets can take up, they don't take up a ton of energy, but when you have a lot of them, if you have like 10 turrets, that's 800 watts, that's almost a full generator of certain things. So it's just good to keep them off and only on when you need them. So I just do this quick little reconnect trick, and that allows me to turn them on at a moment's notice. Also allows me to turn them off at a moment's notice, because raiders will attack turrets that are on, but they will not attack turrets that are off. So that's something to keep in mind. So I actually think I'm going to skip this portion where we're going to mow these guys down. You can imagine what the strategy is. I'm just going to have basically recruit all my guys that have guns and make them go around here. They have a lot of cover because these are walls and barricades here. So they'll be all around here, and then I'll have the melee troops sort of staggered in between. So if anyone comes up with some melee, I'll engage them with melee. I've done it before. It takes a while, but because these guys are snipers, they don't really get shots off, and when they engage in melee, it's not that great. Yeah, so I'm now going to show you another strategy, and hopefully I can pull it off. It's going to be difficult to pull it off with this group because they're snipers, so they have a lot of range, so you might get my guy before we can do it. But I'll show you the kind of trick strategy in dealing with sieges that I find fun, and yeah, a fun way to do it. And if you can pull it off, then no one gets injured and no resources are used. I don't have to use my mortars if you can pull it off. So I'm going to show you that now. Let me just reload. And we're back. All right, so I've reloaded the game, and I'm going to show you another strategy that's my favorite strategy, but it's a little tricky to pull off, and you usually need some abilities in order to do it. I am going to grab Jay, who is the de facto leader of this colony. It's the person I started with on my Naked Brutality, named after Lieutenant Jay from Star Trek The Next Generation. And if you get that reference, you are a very deep-cut Star Trek fan. Almost says Star Wars. That would instantly discredit me from all the Trekkies out there. Anyway, Jay has a psi level of 5. I got this through her rank with the Empire, and also found some neuroformers, which gave her additional psi link levels. So she's at psi link level 5, and the highest level is level 6. So she can almost do all except the most extreme psi casts or spells. But she has the two that I need for this special mission, which is invisibility, which is exactly what you think it is. It temporarily turns a person invisible for about 15 seconds. And then I also have skip, which is an ability that allows me to teleport an object or a person basically wherever I want. Skip is really powerful. Chaos skip, not as powerful. Chaos skip is you randomly teleport a person or object, which means you have no control where it ends up, so it could actually be a detriment if you're using it. But skip is really powerful in combat for not only determining where your enemies are, like, skipping an enemy into melee who might have like a doomsday weapon that they're about to shoot off, or skipping allies in order to get away from danger or, better position to confront danger. So anyway, I'm going to be using a combination of these two abilities, and Jay needs to eat. Hopefully, she's in a good mood, so hopefully we'll just have her be starving during this mission, and it will be okay. She has a long way to go, so I'm going to draft her now to come out over here. Now, when a siege party enters and goes to their siege location, they will kind of ignore your colonists if they're around. Now, if you start assaulting them, they'll, of course, shoot back and stuff, but they're pretty much one-minded. They're going to go to their siege location and kind of ignore you. So I can kind of very confidently bring Jay a lot closer to them than you normally would think I can. And I'm going to pay extra close attention to where their range is, because, again, this is going to be more difficult because they have snipers. And there's two ways I could go about this. I could also bring Jay with a buddy, which might end up having to be the way that we'll have to do it. But you might be asking, well, what am I even trying to do? Well, there's this interesting thing with the AI of this game when it comes to sieges. And that is, they need to build, they'll get supplies to make mortars, but they need components to make that mortars. That's an essential element for the mortars, is steel and components. And if you steal the components, they don't know what to do. And then they'll just stick around in their little siege area, not knowing what to do because they can't complete their mortars, and they will eventually attack. But a siege will get resupplied with food. So they, most of the time, if you have a raiding party and they start starving or getting really tired because you've run them around the map or something, they'll either give up or change their tactic in some way and just kind of assault you. Sieges, it's harder to do that because they get constantly supplied with food. We got a solar flare, so no electricity. But that's okay, because actually mortars do not depend on electricity. So if we needed to mortar during a solar flare, that'd be okay. In case you aren't aware, solar flare is a thing that makes all electronic devices shut down. Even, it doesn't matter if you have batteries or not, no electronic device will work. So pretty much my whole base shuts down, which isn't great, but I don't care about that right now. We are on a mission to steal these components. So as soon as the components come, here they come now, we're going to do something. We're going to try to do a little tricky trick thing. And let me make sure I'm still not... Okay, good. Just want to make sure she doesn't get in range of their snipers, because they will start shooting. If they see an enemy, now that they're sieged up, they see an enemy within their range, they will attack. But I am going to try. Okay, let's see. Where did the components spawn? Not seeing them right now, but there's a lot of people. And you have to be quick about this, because they're going to start building these mortars as soon as possible. But usually they put in the steel first before the components. So just trying to find the components. Is it here? Yeah, here it is. Okay, so the components are there. So it's going to be tricky. If someone's over it, it'll be hard to skip it out. But what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to turn Jay invisible, and it would be even better if she had a jump pack. She does not have a jump pack on her. I could jump pack. You can't skip yourself, unfortunately. Don't believe you can skip yourself. Let me see. Can I? Oh my goodness, I can skip myself. That is good to know. Okay, never mind. I am going to, let's see, where is your range? Okay, I'm going to wait until the last possible second and then invisibilize myself. Visibility. Okay, I'm invisible. So now I'm going to go over here. What is the range of skip? Okay. I'll bring it in here. And again, got to do this real quick because invisibility does not last very long. Okay, so, all right, I'm going to skip those components over here. Boom. And now, actually, this is all you need to do. As soon as the components just move, far enough away, they will not grab these components to put in the mortars. They can now not complete their mortars. I don't believe, there's no component in that mortar being built. And where's the other blueprint? And there's no components in that mortar. So this is actually good enough. But since components are a useful thing, I'm just going to have Jay. I think I have to undraft them. So I'm going to make them unrestricted. Undraft and tell them to prioritize hauling. All right, and they're still invisible. And hopefully they'll stay invisible. Let's see. They're invisible. Ooh, they might get shot at. They might get shot at. They got in the clear. All right. So that was a successful mission. Again, as you can see, you need certain abilities. One time I got really lucky. The siege entered here, but they set up their siege here. So all their supplies came here, and they had to. This was before I drilled over here, but they wouldn't have gone through these doors anyway, and they had to go all the way around the map. It took them over a day to go all the way around, and some of them, I was able to make some pot shots at them while they did that. But I was able to very quickly bring my guy down here, steal the components and bring it back up. And then by the time they made it all the way over here and were starving and tired, they couldn't even make their mortars. So it really pissed them off. And then, like I said, they'll stay here for a long time until they realize they can't make their mortars. It might even be a day or two. But you might think, oh, well, that's annoying to have these guys here, and that kind of cuts off an area of the map. Well, this is a remote area of the map. I could set up a zone and make sure that my colonists stay away from this area but have full access to all the rest of the map. And then, I could still mortar them here if I just want to do damage to them. But it's sometimes good to have enemies just camped out on your map, because if you get another raid from a different faction that they're enemies with, then they'll battle it out and they'll do damage to each other. And you can just kind of sit back in the cut and wait it out and see the destruction happen. But those are two main ways that I deal with sieges. I hope you found this informative and enjoyable. They will not get resupplied with their components, so they're just going to stay here for a while, and then they will eventually attack. And it's a great way to do it, where you just gain some components and you don't use up any mortar shells, and then you're dealing with the raid like normal, as if after you had mortared them. And I could, again, mortar them again and hurt them a bunch. But no need to do that right now. So those are two main strategies that I involve when I get sieged. I hope this was helpful. Love your comments, questions, or concerns in the comments to this video. I always enjoy seeing them, and I'll be back at you next week with some more tutorial videos, but on Monday I think I'm going to do a special Let's Play, just an extra long Let's Play video for Memorial Day. But until next time, good luck out there and have fun.